Hi folks, so the full moon in Gemini is still a few hours away, and I did the full moon in Gemini video yesterday, and there was something about the way I posed the topic and thought about the topic for that video, give peace a chance, that it's fine, but I have another question that I think is much more on the nose and much more important and relevant. And I want to phrase it in a particular way, and I want to, this is a short video, and it's really only going to make sense. If you see this video, you're welcome to see it first. It actually makes sense to see it first, and then just know that in order for it to fully make sense, you need to watch that full moon in Gemini video I did yesterday. Sometimes I will do a video and I will still be percolating on what is going on. And then I will do, sometimes I call it an addendum, it's a follow-up. You know, sometimes, even when I do my readings, sometimes some of my clients are used to getting a brief voice memo, you know, a couple of days after the reading, saying, I'm still thinking about this, or something, you know, or here's a couple more thoughts or something. It's like a tap that keeps dripping, and you want to get the information out. Quick reminder, because we are at deadlines practically. Tomorrow, the 15th, by the end of day of the 15th, wherever you are, if you email me, tomorrow is the deadline, December the 15th, the day Mercury goes direct, is the deadline for $50 30-minute single topic readings. So if you're interested in getting a reading for about 30 to 40 minutes for $50 on one topic, one area of life, relationships, career, children, whatever, a particular astrological event like the eclipses or the Mercury retrogrades, or, you know, if there's a particular topic you want to hold down to and to talk about, or you have a single question, if you want a reading for $50 for 30 to 40 minutes, tomorrow is the deadline for that. After that, I go back to my normal reading stuff. And if you are looking to give readings as holiday gifts, that, of course, I'm going to continue and make that available till Christmas. So but then those have to be gifts for other people. So just please know that and be aware of it. I'm going to put that in the beginning of the video, so that blah, blah, blah. So here's the thing that bothers me, and you know this because I said this in my video, that I think give peace a chance is still an important and a relevant way of looking at this full moon in Gemini. But the question I really want you to ponder is what I put in the subject of this video, which is, what will give you, or what will bring you peace in a particular situation? And depending on the nature, and see, this is where you need to watch that full moon in Gemini video to really understand where this is going, to understand that the full moon in Gemini squares Neptune, what has been going on in Pisces since 2012, reaching some sort of a peak in 2016, 17, and all the other stuff about bringing the Sagittarius part of the chart into alignment, so that the Jupiter transit in Gemini can end a 12-13-year cycle, start a 12-13-year cycle in Gemini, and how the alignment of the Sagittarius part of the chart in Jupiter creates its beginning and ending is contributing to Saturn stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. And more of all of that in that full moon in Gemini video. But another way of framing the topic of give peace a chance, I think, and I think a much more helpful one, is to ask the question, what will bring you peace? Because some of us, maybe some of you, may be in conflict type situations, crisis management situations, where a totally satisfactory resolution may or may not present itself, but it could present itself too. You know, the important thing, as I said, is the whole point of giving peace a chance, that kind of framing, is to say, can something be done? And as I said repeatedly, trying to get to a place of peace does not mean self-betrayal. It does not mean accepting things or withdrawing from situations or not questioning things. That's not how, that doesn't lead to peace. So whatever it is that this full moon in Gemini is bringing to this kind of whatever it is that you're contemplating. And the energy of contemplation, as we talked yesterday, is very important with this full moon, with the stationary Mercury. As I said, it's probably best December 13th, 14th when I do this video, 15th, even the 16th and 17th to some extent, to not necessarily have it out or be in conversation with the relevant parties with a stationary Mercury. Now, for some of us, because as we head towards the 17th, on the 18th, on December the 18th, the Sun actually squares Neptune. So we've got a full moon square Neptune. The moon is going to square Neptune within a few hours of the full moon. The moon moves quickly. The Sun moves relatively quickly in comparison to the others, but it's going to take the Sun 2 or 3 days till the 18th for that square to Neptune to be exact. And the Sun is in Sagittarius. And we're in the month of Sagittarius. The last new moon was the new moon in Sagittarius on November the 30th that squared Saturn and Pisces. Now the Sun is getting into place to square Neptune, and the full moon squares Neptune. And that square between the Sun are total awareness of issues related to the Sagittarius part of the chart. And our awareness of what we need to deal with and possibly manage, bring into alignment, combat even, in such a way that it can help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. That awareness is going to continue to grow over the next 3 or 4 days. So for some of us, you've got to try this on for yourself. It may make sense to be in communication by Monday, Tuesday, into Wednesday on certain topics. I would just say, looking at Mercury, if nothing is prompting that on your side, you could wait until Mercury starts to gather momentum as you get past Mercury stationary on the 15th. I always say give it 2 or 3 days. So by the 17th, 18th, if you need to start to become in action, then you can do that. I think that's just my 10 cents. But you've got to determine what situation you're dealing with and when it makes sense. If I find out something tomorrow that needs a response, whether or not the fact that Mercury is stationary tomorrow is not going to stop me from responding to something. The interesting thing astrologically always, as I observe, is things coincide with astrological counterparts. But if something surprises me tomorrow or needs a response, it will get a response. But when it comes to matters related to this full moon that I describe in detail in the full moon in Gemini video I did yesterday, another way to approach the situation or the question may be through the lens of what will bring you peace. And self-denial and self-betrayal will not. Not only, I think that it's fair to say that it won't bring you peace, and in the longer term, it may not bring peace to the situation itself either. Sometimes what brings us peace is the ability to say what we feel we need to say. And as I said, there might be an emphasis on, a lot of yesterday's video talked about how can things be done. There may still be an investigative component to, Mercury goes direct tomorrow, but Mercury remains in Sagittarius through January the 11th. And Mercury will square Neptune in January before he moves into Capricorn. Kind of where the full moon is later tonight, where the Sun is going to be by the 18th. Mercury will rejoin that point or be at that point January 9th, 10th, just before he slips into, I'm pretty sure. January the 6th, Mercury will square Neptune. And January the 8th, forgive me, not January the 11th, he's going to move into Capricorn. So between now and Jan 8th, you will likely be in communication about trying to bring the Sagittarius part of the chart into alignment. And the full moon later today, heading to this full moon, it wouldn't surprise me at all if conversations and communications and the bubble bursting and something expanding in a full moony way has occurred, but maybe in an oblique way. It hasn't quite been a direct total flow of conversation and communication directly with the people involved. It could be discussing it with other people on the side. It could be processing, mulling over. For people who have Mercury retrograde in their birth chart, it is about reaching final points of decision making. For people who have Mercury direct in their birth charts, it is processing everything you've learned over the last 3 weeks and how you're going to approach a situation. And then when Mercury goes direct after tomorrow and finally starts to gather a little bit of momentum by Tuesday, Wednesday, we can say, all right, Mercury is direct, and for the third time is going to be moving towards opposing Jupiter, squaring Saturn, trining Chiron, and then ultimately squaring Neptune and heading into Capricorn by January the 8th. So between now and January the 8th, what can we do through the mode of communication to bring the Sagittarius part of the chart in alignment? What has the full moon in Gemini brought to our visibility and consciousness with regard to what's the connection between the Sagittarius and Gemini part of the chart, and Jupiter making its ending a 12-13-year cycle, start of a 12-13-year cycle in the Gemini part of the chart, and both these actions supporting Saturn stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart, and the need with Saturn to act in a way that is responsible and cause and effect conscious. And this is where this question of what will bring you peace comes into the picture. Because give peace a chance. On the surface, I am confident and comfortable with what I said in the video, and I elaborated on what that means. And anybody who takes that topic on the surface is going to be like, but I will still stand by that. I will still stand by that. When we are stabilizing parts of the chart, or we're dealing with conflict potentially, or we're dealing with Mars going retrograde, getting ready to oppose Pluto for the second of 3 times, and Jupiter squaring Saturn for the second of 3 times on December the 24th, and all those aspects I mentioned in yesterday's video. And when especially we have Mars retrograde and heading to an awareness that we've got to finish something up in the Cancer part of the chart before we land in the Leo part of the chart by the middle of April, and that it's part of this process of getting to where we're trying to get to by the middle to the end of April, to the end of the first week of June, and all of that in the mix, it becomes a question of, when we're dealing sometimes with conflict situations, we can come up with asking the question, what will bring us peace, can be a very powerful way of connecting to our authenticity. We can realize if something really has ended. We can realize if we really want to be part of something or not. And when we're dealing with retrogrades and aspects happening 3 times, and we're dealing with eclipses, it's not an immediate thing. It is a deliberate thing. As I said, we've been deliberating on things and waiting on events, some of which have occurred since March, April of 2023 till November of 2024. And the energy now has shifted into action and change. But there was plenty of deliberating and waiting, and will I move forward? Will I not move forward? What do I need to release? What do I need to do between March, April of 23 all the way to November of 24? And the deliberating is now done. So the question is, how do we now conduct ourselves to get the best possible outcome, certainly for ourselves, but even for everyone involved, in a way that, because my concern is with the collective that is watching it. So the question for you, the first priority for you becomes, what is going to give you peace in the particular situation where you are trying to bring the Sagittarius part of the chart into alignment, help Jupiter create the ending and new beginning, in the Gemini part of the chart in such a way that it all helps Saturn stabilize the Pisces part of the chart, or structure some sort of a creative goal or a monastic goal or a spiritual goal in the Pisces part of the chart, or a therapeutic goal. And what will give you peace can sometimes mean exiting a situation, bringing a situation to an end. Sorry, I'm just trying to get some dates up here on my laptop if I need them. What will bring you peace can actually be, what keeps a conflict going? What keeps an unpleasant situation going? What keeps us in a place of inertia? And sometimes when we're dealing with situations that we know will really not have a satisfactory resolution, and often that involves hoping someone was different than who they are, or hoping a particular situation was different, or it turns out to be different than what it is. At some point you've got to determine whether the energy leak that situation is causing is worth it or not. It's not all about exiting, but it is about bringing certain long-standing issues to a peaceful resolution. And it's going to be different things for different people. In some cases, it may be a compromise. In some cases, it may just be that you realize that nothing can really be done to repair a situation. So how do you start to bring it to successful closure in as dignified and as polite a manner possible? This is what I mean by giving peace a chance means to get to a place where you are not hopping. You know, it's like something. It's like a drop of water that hops on a hot pan. It's like, so that you're not giving peace a chance is not about backing away from something that you feel you shouldn't back away from. It isn't about self-betrayal, but it is about, have you ever heard the saying, know when to get off a dead horse? It's not absolutely a bullseye, but it's in that arena. Sometimes when we're dealing with tricky situations, they can kind of, you know, it's a full moon that squares Neptune. There's this opposition, there's this square, there's Mars getting ready to oppose Pluto. I mean, we also have a couple of trines in the mix. You know, Mars getting ready to trine the North Node, and the South Node getting ready to trine Pluto, and Venus getting ready to trine Jupiter. And, you know, there's a lot in the mix. But also when it comes to certain types of conflicting situations, and especially when Neptune is in the mix, and Saturn is trying to clean up Neptune's messes, it also becomes important through peaceful inquiry and peaceful communication. And by that I mean relatively polite and non-antagonistic until it gets to a place where you feel like you have no choice. Unless it feels like it's in a situation where you have no choice, where you truly have to draw the line, where you truly have to drop the mic. And it could. There's enough in the energy that suggests that it could. I've said this before on this channel, but it's one of the great ironies of life, I find, that you have to fight for peace. But the question of any kind of fight, of course, is in the how. And with Mars retrograde, it's possible that there's an element of passivity in the approach. There's an element of retreat. There's also, and this is a very important point, with the politeness but clarity of communication in certain arenas where there's a murkiness of what is or is not going on, or has not been going on, sometimes being in communication and communicating in a slightly different mode can also bring clarity where there is none. What is actually going on? What is not going on? What is worth fighting about? And where is there no fight? So that rather than keep the row going or keep the conflict going, it's time to move towards, by the middle to the end of April, towards bringing closure to certain situations. So I'd rather than keep elaborating on and start to sound like a counselor or a therapist as opposed to an astrologer, I'm just going to say, I want to add this question to the mix as we contemplate this full moon. And there's more detail about the astrology of this full moon in the full moon video I did yesterday. Surprise, surprise, which is what will bring you peace in a situation. In whatever it is that needs to be done to bring the Sagittarius part of the chart into alignment so that Jupiter can create the appropriate ending, new beginning, ending of a 12-13-year cycle, start of a 12-13-year cycle in the Gemini part of the chart, and both these activities in the Sagittarius Gemini part of the chart assist Saturn in stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. And there are lessons in the Pisces part of the chart with regard to what we have done and how we have approached things also. We need to process what we may have done that has also made the situation of the crisis in Pisces worse. That's been going on since 2012, but crested in 2016-17. The square to Neptune, as I said yesterday, brings this energy very much to the forefront and may have done so over the past 10 days or so. May have done so during Mercury retrograde, may even have done so since the middle of October when Venus first entered Sagittarius and squared Saturn and squared Neptune and trine Chiron and opposed Jupiter. This is why I do these videos when I will just look at the personal planets transits through one sign. Like, here's a video on all the personal planet transits through Sagittarius or Capricorn. I think those are the last two that I did. And as I said, what the answers may surprise you with regard to, as you look at what you feel like you need to do through that lens. It's about stopping those energy leaks. But it's not just about stopping those energy leaks. One way to stop an energy leak, but it's not. Oh, I was going to say, it may seem like one way to stop an energy leak is to withdraw. But if that's not going to stop the energy leak and it's going to keep making you mull over things or feel like you've betrayed yourself, it's not going to help. It's not going to bring you peace. Sometimes you have to say your piece. Prepare to say your piece. Sometimes you have to be in communication. Sometimes you have to ask the questions. Sometimes you have to ask the questions and see what the response is going to be. And that tells you whether you stay in the room or exit the room. But it's time. Bringing parts of the chart into alignment, etc., is about moving past a certain inertia that is built up into a situation. It can be an inertia of movement. It can be an inertia of conflict. It can be an inertia of, because inertia is not just being stationary. Inertia is also velocity. Inertia can be about overcoming inertia to get moving, but inertia can also be about stopping something that is in the inertia of motion, the current state, transforming it. So as you contemplate the fact that the new moon related to this full moon was in Sagittarius and the Sun and Mercury in Sagittarius, you contemplate that the full moon and Jupiter are in Gemini, and there's a relationship with Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and somewhere Mars is retrograde and Venus and Aquarius are in the mix with this entire picture. As you get ready, if you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, to implement on everything that you have planned and been decisive on over the past 3 weeks while Mercury has been retrograde, as you plan to move ahead and execute on everything you have learned and pondered and gone back to the drawing board on, if you have Mercury direct in your birth chart, I want you to look at, insofar as that this is a full moon that hopefully is a contemplative one for most of us. Then as things get moving past the 17th, 18th, I want you to think in terms of, yes, you can use that topic for the full moon video of giving peace a chance, but if that confuses you or feels like it somehow is not answering to your sense of alignment, then ask yourself the question, what will bring you peace? And at the heart of that is to judge. If the only thing that is going to bring you peace is a kind of retribution or kind of having someone behave in a way that is not characteristic of them, then I'm not entirely sure that that will bring you peace. But it depends on the nature of the situation. If you need someone to apologize and you're never going to get the apology, if you need someone to, you feel that they did something that they need to admit to, and you can't be sure if they did or they didn't, you know, then that's the kind of energy that's, but if it is to move forward to bring clarity to a situation, and if someone brings the clarity, and it's like, oh, okay, well then that's moving towards a state of peace. But if someone does not bring the clarity and is still continue to play certain games, then you can then finally determine and say, what does it take to establish certain things, draw the line in certain places, and then if here's what bringing things into alignment and ending 12, 13-year cycles and starting 12, 13-year cycles and stabilizing things. It's a question of how we deal with toxicity in our life. As I said before, some of this energy from a constructive perspective could be less about managing deception or the people not being on the same page or those kinds of crises. It could be in a constructive way that there's something that needs to be brought into alignment in the Sagittarius part of the chart and the Gemini part of the chart in such a way that Saturn can help structure creative or spiritual goals in the Pisces part of the chart too. And that would be a set of requirements and actions that are necessary to take, but ultimately it's much more positive and exciting than dealing with a murkiness or a fogginess. This is all I want to say. I don't want to keep elaborating, but I hope this question of what is it going to take to get you to a place of peace, and as you cast the dice on this over the next 3 weeks, once Mercury goes direct through Sagittarius, and you integrate what this leading to this full moon in Gemini has brought to you over the past week, 10 days. And as you contemplate all this activity in Sagittarius through the middle of October, first with Venus, then with Mercury, then with the Sun, then Mercury going retrograde, now Mercury going direct. As you cast the dice and move forward, I think we're all ready to do it in a way where, as we get into communication, we're going to use the quality of the responses that we get from the parties involved to determine for each of us what peace looks like. And it's really a question for each of us with regard to whether we stay and build something with those parties or whether we draw the line and exit. But peace often comes It's very difficult to feel peaceful if the other party is not acknowledging us or recognizing us, or we feel like we're not being seen and heard. But in those situations, the fact that we may have said what we need to say in and of itself can be a much more peaceful place to be than in a place where we somehow have not been able to so far. And whether it actually lands and whether we get the response that we feel we deserve or we should, or the recognition, or whether some people are just going to continue to be there. I think we're at a point as we head towards the middle to the end of April, and even as we head towards February of 2026, we're at a point where we're ready, and this is the important, we're ready to, in order for you to feel peaceful, remember what I said. One of the ironies of life that we have to fight for peace. But I'm not, and please be clear, I'm not advocating any form of aggressiveness or violence. And with Mars retrograde right now, I'm not even sure that will, I actually think that the energies are with us to do it politely but firmly and clearly. And it's all part of a set of activities that takes us to the middle to the end of April. And I don't think it's possible to be peaceful without appropriate self-expression. And with a stationary Mercury, we may not be in a place where we are expressing ourselves on the 14th or the 15th or the 16th of December. But after a Mercury retrograde and Mercury goes direct, and with the transit, with the aspects that Mercury is making, and the fact that we're having this full moon that is this kind of bubble of increasing intensity of observation and planning and thinking about what to do next. I think there's a recognition that a certain kind of assertiveness is going to be required, and a certain self-expression is going to be required for us to feel like we've done the best we can with a long-standing situation. We've drawn the lines as best we can, and we found a way to protect ourselves the best we can. And beyond that point, we're no longer willing to engage in toxic energy leaks. And as I said, it's a series of events that takes us, yes, to the middle of April, but even with Saturn and Neptune coming back in Pisces, Saturn and Neptune have been moved into Aries over the late spring and into the summer of 2025, and then back in Pisces, and then hand in hand leave Pisces in January, February of 26. So some of all of this, it's gonna continue till then. As I said, tomorrow is the deadline for the 30-minute $50 readings. If you have questions about my regular readings or holiday gifts, email addresses in the description box below. I thought this was going to be, I was like, why am I just doing a video asking the question, what is going to bring you peace? And here we are 34 minutes later. I hope you found it useful. It's kind of another full moony video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. There's a bell icon next to the subscribe button. If you hover over that, there's a wiggly bell on top. Click on that and you'll be notified when I do new videos. Thanks button underneath this video where you can contribute to the channel. And if you want to contribute to this channel for free, you can like this video or comment on it. It gives the video greater circulation on YouTube. Feel free to share information about the channel with anybody else you might think would benefit from it. I will leave it at that, folks. Okay? Thank you so much, and I'll be in touch over the next few days. I still want to do a quick primer, quick reminder. I've done 3 videos on the Mars retrograde already, in different forms, but I think that since we're just barely a week into it, I do want to do a primer, and I do want to do the weekly overview in a more timely manner than I've been able to do over the last couple of weeks as well. So those videos will be coming out over the next few days. Okay, take care.